everyone. I hope this video finds you happy, healthy, and safe. If you're new here, I'm Rhonda with Rhonda's Craft Frenzy. If you've been following me, then you'll realize that I've been away for a few months taking care of my dad on hospice. My dad has passed, sadly, and for me to get through this depressing time, I need to make things and share them with you. That's what I love to do, so I'm back at it again. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it so much. Let's get to crafting. I'll beat you to the craft table. In my first DIY, I will show you how I made this gorgeous wreath. My sister-in-law was one of my rocks during the time I was caring for my dad, and I made this wreath with her in mind. I started out with a wire wreath form, and I wrapped it in burlap ribbon in the color tan and white, hot gluing it when necessary. I used scraps of the tan that I had and a brand new roll of the white I found at the Family Dollar. Please don't go out and buy anything special. Use whatever you have on hand. You can make it work. Then over the tan part, I wrapped nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. Because I wanted to make a hanger for it, I used hot glue when necessary. And I want to apologize for being off screen during this taping. I didn't realize it until it was too late, and I'm hoping that you can still make out what I'm doing okay. I had this welcome sign from the Dollar Tree and I loved it just as it was, and I thought it would be perfect for this project because I didn't have to change it. I used a hole at the top. I put some jute string through that hole. I tied it on the wreath using a little bit of hot glue just to secure it, and this way it would hang freely right in the center of that wreath. Lastly, I used some florals. Feel free to use whatever you have on hand. I did. I had these ferns and these pretty pink flowers. I think I grabbed them for quite some time ago at the Dollar Tree. I like the dark green with that soft pink together. I placed them around until I was happy, and then I added dabs of hot glue to hold them in place. That's it for this one. I hope you all like it. For my second DIY, I started with one of those trellises, or whatever you call those things, and a package of 3 little baskets from the Dollar Tree. I used zip ties to secure those onto the trellis. I put 2 on top and 1 on the side just so they would stay in place. Once it was all together, I spray painted it with matte clamshell spray paint, and that took 2 coats. I cut down 2 floral blocks and I hot glued them into place. Now notice that these baskets are a little bit different. There's no holes in them. That's because I decided to change things up midstream. I'm going to use rocks, and I didn't want the rocks to fall out of those baskets. But it worked out because you can have interchangeable baskets. Next, I took these tags of these different succulents off, and I added some more floral foam just to fill that basket completely. I then added some pretty green colored rocks on top of the foam, and I started gluing the succulents just around in a way that I liked. And once that was done, I added the remainder of those stones just to fill in all those baskets. I used this Halloween sign I had for some time. I scraped off all the writing and I sanded it smooth. I then painted it with Rust-Oleum's linen chalk paint, and I did 2 coats on it. I wanted my sign to look shiplapped, so that I measured out lines and I went over the pencil with Waverly's black chalk paint, and then I weathered it a little bit with a dry brushing technique with the black chalk paint as well. I'm not sure where my footage went for my lettering, but I did spell out welcome with dollar store stickers, and then I went over that with a coat of Mod Podge. The last thing I had to do was put it all together. Super simple, super pretty. I think it'll look really nice sitting in my garden right near my front door. I hope you all like it too. For my last project, I started out with 2 of the same signs from the Dollar Tree. Please use any signs that you have, or if you only have a piece of wood, perfect. I always like to use what I have on hand whenever possible. If not, I always like to go to the Dollar Tree, the Family Dollar, or the Walmart. They're always going to be my first go-tos because they're the most cost-effective. I hot glued large craft sticks to the back. Then for more security, I stapled them in place to hold those boards together. I didn't want those coming apart on me. I use this pretty contact paper in a shiplap pattern, which if you haven't noticed, I'm obsessed with lately. I traced it out and cut it to size. I took the backing off and I stuck it to my sign. And as you can see, I was having a little trouble getting that thing apart. Then I sanded the edges of the sign, and I do this because this small detail gives it such a store-bought finish. I love it. I used cardboard to make an L for my last name. I made 2 of these because I wanted it to be a little bit thicker with more like a 3D effect. I painted these rods with black paint that I used earlier along with this L, and then I weathered them a little bit with some white chalk paint. I poked holes through the back of the contact paper where the holes were originally on those signs to attach these 2 rods. I used jute string to hold them in place, and I added a little bit of hot glue on the back just for extra security. When I put that contact paper on, I noticed that you could see a pattern coming through of the vines. So I decided to use them, and I used a black Sharpie to trace that out. I used a small wire wreath form, and I wrapped burlap ribbon around it. Then I added some boxwood greeneries to it. I tucked the greenery stems underneath the ribbon, and I glued a bow in the center. Lastly, I glued that wreath and the L onto my sign, and it was done. I hope you like it. I'm going to hang it on my front porch.